Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. And in this video, I just want to say big thanks to the Mod Garage, especially Brian over there, for getting me the parts for the build as fast as he can. In fact, if it weren't for him, a lot of these parts that you're going to see in this video and the next video probably wouldn't have made it to the video or the build itself. So once again, Brian, thanks for hooking it up. I appreciate your guys' support. And let's go on to the video. Also, with that said, you guys asked for longer videos, so here it is. This video is a lot longer than I normally post, but you guys asked for it. So here it is. It's about 20 plus minutes long. I don't know. I haven't edited the video yet, but here it is. There's a lot of information in this video. Information overload. Big thanks to Josh for giving us a lot of that information that you're just not going to see in a lot of other videos. So some of you guys out there might be putting an engine together, and I hope you guys find some value in this video. If not, then well, we'll wait for the next video, because I think the next video is going to be a fun one. But with that said, big thanks to Josh. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel. A lot of more valuable information you can find in his videos. But with that said, on to the video. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a new day, day 2 of the engine build. We're just getting started. We got our stomachs full with some breakfast. Kind of got a late start, but it's okay. It's a nice, good day. Nice, warm, chill day. But motor is right here. Bader's just getting everything ready. We've got the oil pump on there. We've got the water pump going on next. And we'll just update you guys along the way. All right, so the only thing that we did right now was just install the water pump. And Josh was saying that these bolts will break easily. They're only torqued down to about 8 foot-pounds. So if you guys are doing this job, just be careful of that. So you don't want to bust a bolt. That would suck.
Just really easy to pull the threads on those. Just take your time, go through, tighten them, and just kind of go in the off-match the pattern there. And you know, if you take your time, 99% of the time you'll get them all the way done. Where you just saw we got them all to 8 foot-pounds. But there is those blocks, especially if you're using a used block, they're not always going to get there. It's not one of those pieces that, you know, really technically has to be at 8 foot-pounds. And I mean, it's do or die if you're not at the torque spec, but obviously you want to put it to where you can. I've had them at 6 foot-pounds before. Just as long as they're tight, they're not going to leak. That's the main priority. But so now, next up, we're going to put the oil pan on before we get too far in the front there, because we do have a dipstick that runs down.
Oh yeah. And
on the Killer Bee pans, it is a little bit harder to get that dipstick in with their tube seals they have for it. So I like to put the oil pan on and then put the dipstick in versus putting this timing cover on and trying to feed the dipstick down in the pan.
Oh, that makes sense.
Makes it a bit harder. So we're gonna go ahead and flip this guy over.
I would have made that mistake.
We are gonna get our oil pan on, and you guys can see here that we have our nice manly rods that you can see. So we're gonna get this all cleaned up down here, get the windage tray and baffle and pickup tube on, thanks to Killer Bee. First look at the Killer Bee pickup.
There you go.
So now I'm gonna sit this here, but we're gonna have to put some spacers on it for the Killer Bee pan, so disregard it just sitting there.
Yeah, I know Josh told me to get this. He probably would have gave me a whole bunch of crap if I didn't upgrade this.
With
so
what you do with the car, I would have gave you all the crap. I mean, this is very, very important for cars that are doing corners, flat spins, hooning around, autocross, things like that, just to keep the oil right at the pickup. This is what you need. Yeah. So for what you do, this is very, very important. With this, you'll never have to worry.
Oh, that's right, those spacers.
Here's our little install kit. The whole reason why we have the spacer here is because we have an upgraded volume capacity in this pan. This being a 6-quart pan, factory being a 5-quart pan. So this drops our pickup down lower to be able to read the bottom of the pan.
Gotcha.
So that's why I was saying disregard this, because it's just sitting there, because we really just need to put that there. So we have an O-ring here, factory style O-ring on here. So that one seats on there like so, and then this will sit on the actual block like that. So, and then we have 2 more spacers that go right here. Let's see if I can snake my hand in here to get those. But
it's a lot easier to do this now than while in the engine.
Right. So we have a spacer there. And we have one for the other side as well. Obviously we need to put our bolts in, but this gives you an idea. Now I can turn these to where I need them, just like so. So they supply you with all the bolts. We do have different bolts, obviously, for the ones that have the spacers. Blue going in your pickup, and then the black one's going into here. Now, keep in mind when you get this kit, they do have lock washers in here. These are pretty important for these. So you can see there we have a lock washer. Probably shouldn't be holding it right over the motor, but that goes on like so. And then we'll put that down into our pickup there. be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to drop something in your exhaust port or inside the engine. Then we'd have a disassembly, and that's going to ruin our time frame. So pretty straightforward. There's a couple extra steps for putting this pickup assembly together. Obviously there is no instruction, so having videos like this definitely does help if you were to be upgrading to a Killerby pan. This is a nice how-to and what you need with the hardware that comes with it. So just the front ones here on your pickup. This is the main part of it where it's picking up the oil from your oil pump. Well, hang on here. We're picking it up from here, and then we're feeding it to our oil pump. So obviously we have a seal here. These ones are the ones with the lock washers, as you see there. These ones are just a flange bolt, so they don't have lock washers, just because these are just a supporting factor for the pickup. So they're not as much of a need or worry. We're going to torque these to spec. These ones have no lock washer, so they never come loose, and then you lose a motor.
Okay, all this stuff is torqued down now. Now we're doing the pan. Apparently there's 2 versions of the pan. I don't know which version I have.
You got the cast version.
Yeah, but this one right here.
So that's one of the V1 original versions that they actually welded together, where this is a cast pan. This is probably a better pan because it doesn't have the welds in the design. It's much more smooth. Same design internally, but it's just a cast pan now. It's probably better for production base anyways. Quicker, easier for them when they don't have to have a guy welding a pan up.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so one thing before you put this on, make sure to hit this with brake cleaner. This is a very important surface. Same here. We want to make sure that we have a nice clean surface to go on. This is RTV sealant. Eventually there is going to be an oil pan that comes out that has an O-ring by Torque Solutions. So that will be a very cool design, especially for race cars where they come apart often. But for now, we're going to put some sealant on here. Put a nice bead, walk it around. I tend to put a little bit more on this because obviously we don't want them to leak. So I'll put a nice good bead here. Nothing too crazy where it's going to bump into the engine, but a good way to seal. I know probably something that everyone's asked. We're using some nice Honda Bond here. Just kidding. Ultra Gray. Same thing. Ultra Gray gasket maker and a squeeze tube. This is pretty nice. Reusable. This is what I use. Works great. Pretty much up to OEM spec here. So what we're working with here is we have a set of prototype innovative engine mounts. These look very nice. So we are testing these for these guys over there at Innovative. What we're going to be doing with these, and what I was talking with JR here, is we have an offset stud here. So if you're taking a look, you'll see that it's closer to one side than the other. And then we have 2 14mm nuts on the bottom. So it doesn't really matter which mount it is, but this offset is what matters. This needs to be towards the back of the engine here. Otherwise, we're going to have a heck of a time putting it on.
Yeah.
One thing I am noticing right now, though, is
Those are centered.
that's not offset. I mean, I do see some offset on this side here. See this? It might be,
Yeah.
but that might just be for the bolts. Like I said, guys, these are prototypes. We're trying to test these for the guys over at Innovative to see what works and what doesn't work. So we're helping them out over there. This being one of one, this is why we are testing them and making changes, so you guys don't run into these issues of when they start producing these. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and throw this on. If we struggle getting it in the car and putting it in the actual subframe, then we'll know that our issue we're running into is here. This stud realistically should be offset, but the fact is of when they're not offset, and you can see here that it's back further, then that means you would be trying to go and fill this gap, right? If you had it backwards.
Yeah.
So that's going to be worse than having it in the center, because I mean, we're talking a very small amount different there. So we're talking about half of a stud over. So there's a good likely chance these are going to work just fine. But just so for your guys' information, if you are working with any other aftermarket engine mounts other than Innovative like we have here, because obviously these aren't available, they're going to have an offset stud closer to the back of the engine. That's how you know to put these on. So if you just take these off and you unbolt them here and you get them mixed up and you're like, well, shoot, which way do I put them on? Always remember, stud closer to the back of the engine, and then you won't have a problem. Just grabbing these off, simple as that, just 2 nuts, boom, and then your mount comes right on out. Then we'll take our new one, since we don't have an offset theory here, we'll sit this on, and like so. Then we'll go ahead and take these, bolt them on, and that's as simple as that. We got our new engine mounts installed on our bracket. From there, we just have 2 bolts here. You can always tell that they have the lock washer on them. This is the only one that looks like this on the engine. We'll use those 2 to mount to the block using these 2 spots. So we'll buzz this on and I'll show you what it looks like on the block.
No, it doesn't work.
Not the right size. Dang it. Alright.
But you guys get the idea.
You get the idea. Bam. As simple as that. And then we'll take it over. We'll show them on the engine. This is left side. Left always being driver side, guys, so you know. And then this is going to be passenger because we have it flipped over. So shorter side always goes to the back, just like so. You put your front bolt in here. See how good I can spin this in on camera? Of course. Bam. And bam. And that's what they look like on the actual engine. Boom. So we'll tighten those down. We'll switch over back over to our 14mm because we are back at OEM. Just simple as that. Alright guys, so we were just talking with JR about this, and we believe this is a good tip for everyone that's building or assembling your own engine. If you take a look here on your cams, you have a little pin there that needs to line up in your cam gear. And then if you take a look in your cam gear, we have several different holes in here. There's one larger one that it needs to go into, but if you're not careful and you put this on, you can force it to go in one of those other holes. Now let's say that does happen. What's going to be the cause of that? And how are you going to know? Well, you're going to have ABCS timing is going to be off. So the engine's going to be throwing a cam over timing code, and it's going to act as if it's not on time because obviously our gear is not in the right place. So even though you're timing the engine, you line up your marks, the actual gear on the cam wouldn't be correct. So what we're doing here, and this is a good tip for anyone, is we're going to take our pin, and we have our hole here, and I like to offset them. And we're going to obviously wipe this off here because there's a little bit of oil residue from when we had it sitting. So offset it so we have them both up right now. I'm going to turn the cam gear, flip it on to get on, and we'll slide our cam gear onto the engine. Now, with having aftermarket cams, and it is sometimes a little bit hard to get them on, wiggle them, lube them. So what we'll do now is now we're sitting here, I'll turn it with very light to no pressure. It's going to turn until the camshaft gets to a point where it can't turn anymore. And then you're going to feel the gear, and you'll see it physically slide on right there. And that's how you know you have it perfectly on your cam every time. So that is a good tip for you guys. This is very, very important. Obviously, you have a brand new engine. We know these aren't cheap. You don't want to do that because you will destroy this cam gear. And obviously, there is the possibility, I mean, you could bend the valve. You could have much more issues by having this not be in the correct spot. So make sure you get these in the right spot. Don't force them. If you're questioning it, just go ahead and pull it off. Do it again. It's not that big of a deal. And take your time. These bolts need to be torqued to 65 foot-pounds. Do not skip this step. Yeah. Because if these come loose, same deal. You're going to be running into timing issues and possibly bent valves and have the cam come off, and it'll destroy it. And it could destroy your cam. So make sure you torque these to spec. Go through, double check them. It's very important. But that is going to be a quick tip today for cam gears and cams.
Okay, so it's been a few minutes since the last clip, and I leave for 5 minutes, and next thing you know, everything is put together.
Filling up our OEM filter with some oil for that first prime.
Hell yeah.
That way we got oil quicker than we would if we didn't fill this. So I just sit here and fill these up.
What oil are we working with here?
And we are working with my favorite, the VR1 1030, guys.
Sponsor me.
Point proven. This stuff works. So this is what we work. You can get it anywhere. That's the nice thing about it. It's not like Motul where you have to order it in. You can get this at any Napa or O'Reilly's, anywhere near you. Pick it up. Very easy, accessible, and it's pretty cheap. I mean, it's about $7 a quart. So I mean,
it's not bad.
Cheap. And it works great. And they have a 2050 version that we use on race days, so they do have that. 1030 is what we use just for street cars. This is great for these engines because they have a bucket over cam design. So having that zinc definitely helps out with the contact on a bucket.
All right, guys, lots of progress since the last clip. I think it's been like an hour since the last clip since we videoed. So I think we put the header on. I don't know what else we put on. We put the up pipe on. What else? I can't even remember. Bader's been doing a lot of the work. I was just
small finishing details.
Yeah, I was in the back taking a nap while he was working.
I had to get the old plates off so we can seal up the back of the motor. So we have all that right here right now, just on the ground. We got to put our backing plates on there. That way we can seal up the back of the engine because we have, you know, an access plug to assemble the engine on both sides. So we need to put a plug there, put a plug inside there, seal this on, put a plug there, and then we're ready for our flywheel, clutch, and well, I should have said flywheel and clutch assembly, but yep. So now imagine when you guys start making more power, and let's say, this is where I usually say a number, 40 pounds, but it comes with power. Usually, technically, it gets to be around 40 pounds, and that's where I have an extra breather system for the cars, because the AOS is draining, obviously, right here.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is the cars start to pull so many G-forces when you're doing a pull, and all the oil is going in the back of the oil pan here. So all of it's in the back of the pan. Well, guess what? Now it doesn't have anywhere to return because the oil is coming up this hole because you have the G-forces of the car coming back. So now your AOS gets overwhelmed, overfills. It has a tube that goes down underneath the car, and it'll pee oil out underneath your car. Now, that's not what we want. It's not safe. So if you're in the 800 plus world, then that's where you run into this issue. But other than that, 99% will never run into that issue.
Yeah, I'm not in the 800 range.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Stay tuned. I give it 6 months, she'll make 800 wheel.
Yep. Just weird, that little hole right there. That's it. That's where your AOS drains. So right now we're just putting on the clutch. We are putting on the ACT Extreme stock flywheel. I think Bader's about to torque everything down right now. But yeah, progress. I think the engine's going to go in after this, you say?
Yep.
And then, yeah, just progress. Really not much to film right now.
No.
So.
A bunch of simple stuff just happening. A bunch of little things just getting it ready to go into the car. Maybe if I'd stopped talking my ear off to people, then we would have got it in the car already.
So if you look at Bader's channel, he had a visitor come to his place.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna get in trouble, but you guys will see it on his channel.
You'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Torqued on. One of the big things here when we're aligning this with our clutch alignment tool, which I just threw over here. I'll grab that. So we have this guy here, right? So we have this going into our clutch here and goes in. Now when you have this in here, you might need to make some adjustments to it. One thing with the ACTs, they are powder coated, so they have little pins, 3 of them, triangulated on here. Well, you'll see the powder coat kind of sticks on there, and it makes it kind of hard to get these on the first time when they're brand new. Now, if doing so, there might be a chance you're going to have to go ahead and torque this down, then untorque it, unbolt it, redo it. That's what we had to do because it just wasn't lining up right. So when we do this, these go to 25 foot-pounds according to ACT, and you can see here how smooth our alignment tool goes in. So now we won't have any more issues of trying to put this engine in the car and it not lining up with the transmission points. This is a big thing that we run into with putting these engines in that a lot of people fight. And then the last thing that people fight too to add on to this is, you know, you have little pins here on each side of the engine, right? These help align for this shaft. Imagine the transmission being right here. These align for it. Well, what will happen is your old block may leave these into the transmission. If that's the case, then we won't be able to go in because it's just going to be hitting them. And so you're going to have a real tough time. So just make sure to look at it. Make sure you have one set of pins pretty much on the engine and the transmission. It doesn't look like we have any stuck in our transmission over there. So with that being said, this should be smooth sailing. Shouldn't have any issues getting this thing slide in. Last thing is, we got our throwout bearing here, brand new from ACT, that we need to get onto our transmission because this is a clutch fork pull style, and obviously it's sitting here and it's pulling away from the pressure plate. So we need to get this onto the transmission and set up that clutch pin that we had to pull when we pulled the motor out. So that's what we're gonna do now. Once we get this set up, this thing's 100% ready to get in the car.
All right, I don't know if I explained this earlier, but as you guys saw, I installed the Grimspeed up pipe, and as you guys saw earlier, Bader was explaining the ACT clutch. If you guys are interested in any of this stuff, check out the links in the description below. But I just want to say big thanks to Yo at Subispeed for giving me an awesome deal on the ACT clutch and also the Grimspeed up pipe. He also hooked it up with the tile wastegate, so that's going to go on later once we get the engine in the car. All right, guys, I don't know if you saw from the last clip, but I'm kind of bummed. I'm not going to lie to you. So the camera fell on the fender. As you see, there's a fat scratch on there now. Kind of bummed, not gonna lie, but I'll get that fixed eventually. Sucks.
I'd sell the car.
Well, he's dumb, that's why. He would do that. I wouldn't. I would fix it. But we have a lot of progress. Bader's been a huge help. He's getting the wastegate done. One job I hate doing, and he's just knocking it out like it's nothing. But,
yeah,
you know, he is the man. So.
He's already on and done. Just tightening the last clamp real quick, and then we get to put the turbo on. All
right, so Bader's just fitting the turbo on there, and right now we're anticipating a very tight fit when it comes to this turbo. You know, fitting the turbo inlet in there, trying to fit the intake manifold on there. This is probably like the limit of the size turbo you want to use on a stock location setup, definitely.
Mainly stock intake manifold.
Yeah, too. Stock intake manifold, yeah. Should have got the AMS intake manifold, huh?
Yeah, but then we would have run into other issues as far as doing a custom intercooler pipe.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other set of issues that come with that. So we're just gonna make it work. We did get some spacers for the intake to kind of help with that, and you know, it's been done. It'll work. I'm not too big of a fan of the FP turbo inlet. They do collapse, so
Yeah.
I do see that being something that's gonna hold us back on power. But we'll make it work, and maybe down the road we can do a hard inlet if we were to stay with this. I foresee us changing setups down the road, and you're going to end up going with a rotated setup that's much more efficient than this little guy is. I mean, we're going to be pushing this thing to make 550, whereas a rotated turbo, we can make 550 without even pushing it.
Because this baby can take it.
We can take it. Same motor right here that's in our Series Gray, guys. I mean, same setup right here, Trap 880 wheel.
We can do it.
So, they can do it. Everything's there. We've had a day.
Yeah, it was.
It's been a day of, obviously, aftermarket parts. You know, it doesn't always go smooth. We're working with several different name brands of parts. It's no one's fault directly. It's just working with several different companies. And, you know, to be honest with you guys, it's really hard with stock location turbos and stock intake manifolds. It's very difficult. He's definitely seen the real side of it now, and you know, the real things that we have to deal with as installers of putting them together. Yeah. And the end result just isn't as great as it would be if we were to have an aftermarket intake manifold that gave us more clearance or a better turbo selection. Honestly, I've never been a fan of stock location turbos. They work. A lot of people make good power from them. It's just not my thing. I like the rotated turbos. I think it's a much better functioning system. Don't have to work the motor as hard, but this is what our budget allowed. And this is what the budget allows for a lot of people, so I understand it and I do get it. You know, sometimes budgets are tighter, and this is what we got to keep. We're struggling a bit with the turbo inlet there, like most of you guys will with a stock intake and a 3 1/4 inch inlet. I mean, you guys can see it's really tight.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
It's really pinched. You know, we did the best that we could to keep it as straight as possible and as large of an inlet as possible. You know, but in the meantime, what you guys haven't seen, we got the turbo inlet on. We got the whole top of the motor all together. We did get the wire harness on the engine. We got the intake manifold all bolted on. Accessories are on the front of the engine now as well. So we definitely made a lot of progress. I've been working on the fuel system as JR has been finishing up the accessories and all the little odds and ends that we needed to. We did already go ahead and prime the engine. Found one little leak on the top of the turbo, which we knew we were going to have just because of the IAG bracket. We went ahead and primed it again. Everything was good to go. So we are ready for the first start. It's just finishing up the odds and ends. As you can see here, I'm wrapped up in fuel lines like no other. So I'm just going through building the fuel lines. This definitely takes a good bit of time building AN lines for anyone that's done it. So we have our regulator mounted over here where I like to have it. We did already get our feed system that runs right down here, runs over and underneath the motor to feed the motor. We do have a Cobb flex fuel right here tucked away. So this adds a little bit of time. We got to build a couple lines for that to have that into our returning fuel system. So that way that is reading. So that's what we're doing right now. We can go ahead and get our spark plugs in. That's going to be the next step. Get our coil packs in. And from there, you know, we're not too far away. I think I'm going to have them put in the radiator at this point in time. And then we'll jump over to the plugs and coil packs. And we're really close, guys. We are waiting on Steve Tuner to go ahead and give us a first base map. He's been tied up on the dyno all day. He's had about, I know he told me 6 or 7 cars to tune today, so I haven't heard back. We're crossing our fingers that we get a little bit of his time today. So we're kind of stuck there without the tune, but we're gonna get this thing 100% and then just be waiting on that.